Okay. Good morning to everybody. So I'm Laila. I'm part of the Superuser Leaderboards in SUNsource, and I'll be leading this forum about how to create a SUN for a cross-organization platform. And it's an interesting topic because it's like very different from the normal like super users we have. So how do I get to this? Yeah. So hi. Okay, so just a little bit about myself. So I've been in the leaderboards since last year, so a little bit less than a year. I'm from business process management like background, and I have worked both in Brazil and in Latvia with business process management. And super user has been a big topic for me because I have always studied how to make a company grow in maturity in process management. And I found that there are like many problems that companies face, and the super user could be a very good tool to deal with these problems, especially with things related to people and culture, because that's the typical thing that business process excellence office can't really deal with in the person's level, especially if the company is big. So I started seeing super users, and I really like the concept, and I try to apply it everywhere. So at the moment, I'm working in Latvia. Although I'm living in Brazil, in an NGO that is the Building and Energy Efficiency Bureau. And actually, in the next slides, I'll show you how the process is there. So for this NGO, we are building a big platform that will be used across many countries, and that's actually where I want to apply the super user concept. And that's where actually this time I want your input of what you see it, what kind of concerns you have. Is this a crazy idea or whatever? I really want your comments. So I think the first thing to understand is that this is really a different super user network if we compare with the other ones, because usually we're used to having a super user network to operate on an ERP. So all the operations are happening in the system. You have executive reporting, so you have a boss that can say, hey, now we have a network and let's just have the super users. And you have more control over the process because you can really change how you're going to use the system since everybody's in the same organization. And in this case, we're building a platform called Sunshine. And so the system is just for entering data, showing what happened, but there's nothing really happening through the system. I think I can compare this. You probably have in the States and other places. So here in Brazil, we have the systems where you have everything for the university. So you have the teachers, you have the subjects, you have the students. So it's something similar. Like the student can log in and he sees his grades, he sees materials he has, but he's not really having classes inside of that platform. It's just really for sharing. So you have different roles inside of it and you're sharing what is happening. So it's something similar, but in this case, it's for construction projects. The other thing that's very different from the normal situation is that the companies that will be using the system are completely independent. So they are in different countries, they do different things. So you have a construction company, an NGO, a financial company, and everybody's in the same system. So you don't have a common boss, let's say. And the other thing is that these individual companies don't really have the control over how the process works inside of this platform, because we have a standard project and they should just work as it's defined on the platform. So the super users can give suggestions on how to improve the platform or maybe the process, but it really has to go back to the first company that created the platform, and now show you why. So what exactly is happening outside of the platform and why the platform exists? So we have a lot of buildings and they're paying for the utilities. And at the moment we're working especially with buildings built during the Soviet times in Europe, like in all the part that was Soviet in some moment. So we have all these buildings. In our case, the buildings are already very old. They haven't been maintained. So you have very high bills. So that's what happens here. Can I get rid of this thingy, Ginger? or it will be here like forever because it's in front of my presentation. So
yeah, I'm not seeing. All I see is your slide.
you don't see all the people. Oh, so that's good. I thought you were seeing it was in the front of the presentation. Okay,
I just see your slides.
okay, very good. So then we have construction companies that want to work and do the renovation of the buildings using the energy performance contracting. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but the idea is that you make a renovation of the building, paying for the renovation with the savings of energy. So how does it work? The construction company makes a contract with the buildings. In the case of Latvia and of most of the countries, ex-Soviet countries, you have a 20 years contract. And the building agrees to continue for all this time paying the same value they were paying for the bills. They now pay for to the construction company. So the construction company is the one who starts paying the bills, and they make all the renovation using this money. So what happens is that the consumption of energy falls a lot because they make a study before the project starting saying, okay, so this is how much of the consumption will drop. And then with the difference is with what you pay for the renovation. So this is the main thing of the contract. So people agree to continue for 20 years paying the same, but actually they're paying for the renovation and not anymore for the energy. And they get a much better house with like ventilation working. They're not freezing anymore, like better situation, because in some of these buildings, people are really freezing inside and spending a lot of heating because, well, yeah, the building is not good anymore. So this is like the basic project. Why the platform showed up. So the construction companies, to be able to make this renovation project, they take a loan from the banks. But the banks also in these countries, they don't want to give a long-term loan. They want to receive, I don't know, the money in 2 years. They don't want to wait for the 20 years for the building to pay back the money. So the construction companies had a problem. So there's a fund that was created that is here to solve this problem. So what they do is they have other financial institutions that are interested in long term. So they check if the project happened according to the criteria defined by this fund. So the fund wants that the renovation is really energy performance contracting. So it's a real contract by these parameters, because then you have the energy savings guaranteed. So if the fund checks that it really was made according to what it should be, then the fund is buying this contract from the construction company. So the construction company can return the loan to the bank and go to the next building. And then the people start paying for the fund in this 18 years, how many years are still there. So what is happening inside of this platform? The idea is that there we have all the people involved in this project. They are registered in one platform, and this fund is using this platform also to approve the funding. So these are all the people who have the platform. We have the buildings, we have government, because we make partnership with the municipalities so that they stimulate the people to want to renovate the building using this. You have the construction companies, you have all other suppliers that take part in the project. So you really have many different people inside of the platform. And what is the main task of the super user in the platform? And then they have a secondary task. But the main task is to be sure that all the information is entering the system in a timely manner and accurately. Because this is a basic architecture. At the moment, we're working only in the platform part. But the idea is that from this platform, you have different kinds of reporting. So for example, the municipality should be able to see what is happening with all the buildings on their municipality. Because then they also show how much, for example, CO2 we're not producing anymore because of the renovations in the buildings. Then we have already a site where people can understand how the renovation works. So this is just a website. But the idea is that we have also reporting on each project so that people that live in the building can understand what is happening with my building. Because, well, they have a contract for 20 years and they want to see if really the temperature is okay, everything's okay as they promised. So we're going to have these people looking at the platform. And plus we'll have it connected to the building itself in the future. So instead of having someone going and measuring the temperature, we're going to have sensors in the buildings, and this comes into the platform. And we're going to have also a mobile application for the project manager so that he can be in the building updating the things in the platform. So it's very important that all this information is in the correct place, because you have multiple people looking at it. Plus, for the funds to be able to have money to buy the contracts, they need to convince long-term investors that it really works, like it really has energy savings and they're really getting money from that. And also the governments need to understand that the projects are happening and how much savings we're having. So the platform only works because we have all the data there. If you don't have the data, you can't convince anyone. And then inside of the platform, if anyone has any questions, you just interrupt me, okay? So inside of the platform itself, each user just creates a login, and then they are assigned roles inside of projects or inside of the organizations they are part of. So that's how people see different things. And the user can be either a user or a super user. So a super user sees much more than the normal user, and the user will see according to the roles he has on a project or an organization. And the secondary task of the super user is to approve. So the user creates a login, and then he creates an organization. So the super user is the one to look at the organization documents and approve that this organization really does exist, because otherwise I can't just create random organizations in the system. And he also approves if a certain person says, I'm the legal representative of this organization, it is also a super user to go check the documents and approve it. So this part is more like a technical part, but it's important to have super users in multiple countries, because the documents are very different and we have the local language. So that's the idea of having people in different countries. And then how the project looks like in the platform. So actually, it's not that complicated what happens there. You have a phase of asset acquisition, like convincing the building of making the renovation. What changes is who is involved in it. So the building is everywhere, but here usually you have like the NGO that is the one who represents the building owners, explaining to them how does it work, making meetings with them until they sign the contract. Then when you're planning the project, you start having energy companies analyzing the building, and the construction companies start showing up because they make the plan for the renovation. And from here, the construction company is the one that really assumes the project, because they're leading the whole project. And then, for example, the NGO that was convincing the building of signing, they're already like in parallel somewhere, but they're not active in the building anymore, the project anymore. So you have like roles changing in the middle of the
Hey Laila.
Yes.
This is Ginger. Sorry, I should have asked before. NGO, what does that stand for?
Non-government organization.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Thanks.
In the case of Latvia, it's an NGO, but it could also be a construction company doing this role. But it's like just to show that we really have different types of everything there. So.
Great, thanks.
And then the last thing to explain how the platform works is a little bit about the roles. So as I said before, we have roles like in the user level. So people can be part of an organization, be the legal representative, be the signatory for the organization, be just a member of the organization. And you have the roles inside of a project. So the project manager, a task manager, a simple team member. So this really like in the organization and project level. But then on the platform level, you have some roles that are country specific and some roles that are for a portfolio. And this can be smaller than a country or bigger than a country. It depends on the volume you have on each country. So the portfolio manager would be one that is checking how the projects are going in his portfolio. And the fund manager is the one that for that portfolio is defining that yes, this project was done according to what it should be. So we give the funding to them. And then the super user is actually in the country level, because the idea is that he provides support for the people of that country. and also he makes the approvals of organizations and users on that country. So he sees everything in his country. And then we have a data protection officer, because in Europe it's mandatory to have people taking care of people's information.
Laila, I have a question.
Yes.
So who leads this? Who leads Sunshine?
The whole platform?
Yes.
So it's the platform manager is this fund that provides the money. So they're the ones creating the platform.
And so what skills do these super users need to be able to perform this particular role? Will they all be doing the same job, basically?
They all do basically the same job. So they would all understand how the platform works, like all the modules, because it's not that much. One is like, this is the project and this is the reporting. So they really need a training on how the platform works. If they are from different kinds of organizations, it helps to improve how the process is. But actually all of them will understand how the platform works, because since it's a matter of uploading files and updating a table, it's not difficult.
And is this a full-time role, you know, full-time job for these folks within the organization?
No,
I mean, how are they recruited?
Hours a week. So at the moment they don't exist. Like at the moment there's one super user, me, like the super user manager. Okay, so everything's look at the future, and the system itself is not ready.
Okay.
So, at the moment the system is being built under an European project, and then we have 8 partners from different countries. So at the moment, the people who are testing the platform and using the platform are people from these 8 partners. And then the first super users we're gonna have, at least on the next 4 years, because the project has 4 more years, are people from these organizations, because they're really building it also.
Okay.
But it's like a couple of hours a week, maybe. It's not like a very big volume. And one of the things that we understand is important, and then maybe I go to the next. Now, the last thing I was going to explain here is that above all the super users, of course, there's a super user manager. That is the person checking that this person can be a super user because it had the training on the platform. So there is this role.
Yeah, I have a question. This is Ginger.
Yeah.
So this is a unique twist to super users, and when Laila talked to me about this, I was very intrigued by it, because in our traditional super user, there's a lot of control as compared to the environment that you're in. So these users, they all live in different companies, and so I'm really interested in the super user and how that control, I'll use that loosely, that control gets exhibited so that we maintain the integrity of the data, because ultimately, as I see it, your users are responsible for what you said, timely and accurate input of data. And if we don't have that, the platform falls apart. So the role of the super user and the relationship of the super user to the users that are in completely different companies is a really important role to make sure that that's happening, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what do you see as the potential challenges that you might have in that structure where the super user, you know, there's not a company reporting line at all?
I think it's difficult to be sure we do have super users. I mean, that someone is really convinced of being one. I was talking to my colleagues, and what they said is, if you have companies, for example, construction company that has enough volume, like really a lot of projects, what we can say is to tell them, now you need to have one super user to support, because you need to provide a super user to help supporting. And the incentive is that if they don't cooperate with the platform, they just don't get the money. So yeah, basically. But one
That's a motivation.
no, that's a motivation. I mean, that's a motivation. For example, we use the here in Europe, we have the EU portal to get also money from these grants. And it's also a very complicated portal, but it's like we deal with it because we want the money. So that's basically what's going to happen. But we are really working in having very good training material so that the time the super user spends helping people is reduced.
Okay, and then also from a super user standpoint and the collaboration of the super users, because in the traditional role of super user, you have your super user leader, and the super users are meeting on a regular basis. They're working on what are their challenges, what's the future look like, creating a roadmap for process improvement. Is that the plan too with the super users in your environment?
Yes, but I think a lot could happen through the super user leader because of language problems. Because one problem I faced when I was working in a Baltic company that was Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, we built a tiny super user network. At that moment, we were like 12. But what happened in those countries was that they didn't really have language in common, especially with the younger people, like people that were from 20 to 30. Because the people who are older than 40, they all speak Russian, which I don't speak, but at least they do. So they have a common language. And people that are younger than 20, they speak English. But the ones that are in the middle, they speak more or less something of that. So what was happening all the time in the meetings I had with the super user network there was that it had to be a lot through me, because people sometimes have a very small level of English. So you just need to have someone translating all the time. So having a big discussion just doesn't happen. And maybe this is a lot of what would happen. I mean, the super user would, if they don't have a good English, they would need someone to help them to translate it. So it would probably be through like the super user leader, or in smaller groups according to the language they have in common. So, but the idea is to have, we still don't have funding for that. So the idea of the funding is that whenever have like a membership to the platform. So whenever they have a new project, for example, then they pay a certain value, and this would maintain the payment for the super users, or whatever incentives we would like to give to keep them there. But I don't see like everybody traveling to a certain place. Not sure. It would have to be through other things, like a person that's already traveling for a project, then we meet. But I don't know if it would be so easy to put everyone in the same place, because they will be each one in a country. So.
Hi, Laila. This is Ellen. Ginger, could I have, I don't know how you want to do questions from the crowd.
No, I want all the comments and questions. So.
Okay. It occurs to me that once, it's a great vision right now, and you're thinking through everything so early. It's really commendable, especially because you don't have influence or control over the member companies. But I could see you getting together on forums like this. Absolutely. Once you grow your members, you recruit the super users, you kind of bring them into the fold. A forum like this is better than live, certainly, or just as effective. And I think you're probably able to incent them to put someone in that role by letting countries know, or companies in each country know, that if they have a super user in the mix, they're part of a feedback loop to influence system improvements or process improvements.
Yeah. That's a good. I'm writing. That's why I'm looking to their site. Yes, this could be a good point. Yep.
Hey, Laila.
Yeah.
We'll need to stop at 9:40.
Okay. No, but I'm in the last slide, so I'm good.
So can I ask, you may have already said this, what platform is this being built on?
It's called Sunshine. So we're building the platform out of zero. But you mean like the technical information?
Yeah, I was just curious if you were using like Salesforce or any of the other kind of normal things that are used.
No, it's from zero. We're not using a system that is already there and adapting. We're like creating a completely new one. So, but I don't know very well the technical specifications. I mean, I have them in Latvian somewhere, so I could look for them in English.
Mark, I had asked Laila the same question when we originally had the discussion about this, and she told me that it's ground up. I said, that sounds really intriguing to me. For sure, Laila, you've got your hands full and a lot to learn as you move forward, and I'm anxious to hear the journey. So I'm definitely going to want updates on this.
Yeah, actually, they are working on this platform already a couple of years, and I showed up 3 months ago, so it was already there. So let's see. Just trying to structure it. Okay, so what I see as strong points is the fact that the motivation is financing, because I think that motivates enough. Especially because in a country, for example, like Latvia, if they don't have this kind of support, the company just can't continue with this kind. The construction company, for example, they just can't continue with this kind of projects because they need the financing. Then another strong point is since the project, like the process that is actually a project, is the same for everyone, it can also be possible to have, for example, in Latvia, one super user of each stakeholder type. And then in the other countries have just someone for helping more with the language. Instead of having in each country like one construction company and one of each one, we can limit that because the process is the same. But it's good but we need one in each country, especially because of the language and the user support. And another thing is that the system is much more simple than an ERP, so it's easier to make it more user-friendly. Although we'll have to deal with translating into 15 languages, but we can make it more user-friendly and have explanations in the system.
Oh my gosh, are you saying that SAP is not user-friendly?
It depends. Mine will be more. I'm not saying SAP is not.
Oh, that's funny.
But does that mean your IT team will have to translate the whole system into all those languages?
Oh yeah, we're translating. We have it in 8 languages already. The part we have developed.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because the
That's
problem
a lot of
is,
work.
yeah, what happens in this side of the world is that people don't need to know English, for example. If they had a common language, it would be Russian. And that would be a problem, at least for me and a lot of people. I mean, anyone that is foreigner and arrives there, we don't know Russian, and it's much more difficult to learn. So it really has to be in each person's language, especially because some of our users are people living in the buildings. So it can be a grandmother somewhere that wants to know what is happening there. So it has to be in their language. So yeah, it's an extra thing. And then, yes, then the main concerns I see is the fact that we don't have an executive sponsor, so I have to somehow influence them in another way. Then we sometimes will have very few users per organization, so it's difficult to convince the guy that you need to give me a super user if he has one user using it. So it's purely helping the others, so let's see. And the other thing is that at the moment we don't have a common budget. Like during the project, the next 4 years we do, but at the moment not after that. So also not so easy to say, okay, so the company in Latvia will be hiring all the super users. Not so simple. If they are in different countries and everything, it's complicated.
Well, and that challenge of budget is, it sounds very similar to super users, and what we're having to deal with right now is that we raise up a super user network as a part of a project, and they have funding and they have executive sponsorship during the project. But this is where we've traditionally had the problem is once the project ends, so does budget and leadership. And then we have a different problem and the program starts decomposing. So for you getting in front of that, will be really, really important. What does it look like after funding ends? Common, project funding and any project leadership. I'm not sure if that will be the same challenge, but sounds similar.
mean, if we get that system to really work, at least these 8 partners will be actively using it. So it would be their interest to continue having it. But yeah, that's all I can say at the moment.
Well, it definitely is an interesting twist to the super user space.
So that's basically what I wanted to share, because that's it. It's just a very big challenge.
Yeah, I like this. I think that was a really great story. You did a good job.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if anyone has any other questions about the structure or any
Other ideas or concerns? I don't know.
any point, yeah, ideas.
My only comment was kind of what I was headed towards is using a tool that's already out there. I was thinking you guys want to customize stuff significantly, and you want something in multiple languages, and you want something that's easily, reachable to everybody. And I was thinking immediately, we use SUNsource a lot for a lot of customizing. It may be cost prohibitive, I don't know, but the fact that it would be already in all your languages, it's instantly mobile, and it's very easy to configure and change. And the other thing from your super user perspective is they have a system called Trailhead where they allow you to create your own custom training material, and then people can go through training and get certifications or badges, etc. But all of that is in a standard package, which we implemented really fast. In fact, for us, we've implemented. We started just with one really simple project, and now we've completed more than 20 different applications in less than a year. And it really lends itself to fast, speedy development and quick changes. So you guys, sounds like you guys are pretty far into this. You can't really, go back and say, well, is this the right decision? But I can tell you that's been a really good tool for Hitachi.
Well, I can look at Salesforce and compare and see what we copy. Yeah. No, but it's I took a note on that. Thank you. Okay. So I think that's it, right? Nobody has any more comments?
Not me. Great job.
That was awesome. Thank you, Laila.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting.
Okay, so thank you. Hope to see you in the next forums to see more interesting discussions. Hopefully discussions with more answers, not just questions, but let's see.
All right. Thank you, Laila.
Have a nice day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.